for my Jedis. If you actually get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't.
Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. While the 5th episode of Ahsoka Shadow Warrior gave us things that we would never believe that we would see in live action, what it is actually illustrating in those scenes is far more important, and turns out to be way more terrifying, at least for me. The scenes between Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker and the young Ahsoka in the flashback scenes during the Clone Wars illustrated something home to me that the Clone Wars animated series never quite did. That being that Ahsoka Tano was literally a child when she was thrust into wartime. Something that really hasn't been touched on in the lore is how Ahsoka was actually crafted as a Jedi. Seeing Ahsoka in animation is one thing, as you always understand that she's supposed to be 14 years old at the time of the first season. However, seeing the Clone Wars and Ahsoka in live action at such a young age being thrust into a war that she did not ask for or even prepare for was quite the horrific moment. The message that the episode was trying to hit home was the Clone Wars' impact on Ahsoka, and how the Clone Wars literally scarred Ahsoka Tano to this very day, to the point where she judges her own training extremely harshly. We get a look at Ahsoka's mind through the world between worlds, how she believes that she was not trained as a true keeper of the light, but rather trained in an era where the Jedi had utterly lost their way. This is the thing that the episode hits home. Ahsoka doesn't even believe that she is a true Jedi, because there's a part of her that believes she never received true training. To her, her master, Anakin Skywalker, trained her to be a warrior and a fierce combatant, but not necessarily a Jedi, or a keeper of the peace. But the lesson that Anakin Skywalker has to her is that the Jedi must ever evolve. He explains that the eras in which Obi-Wan Kenobi was trained and Qui-Gon was trained is far different than the era that he was trained in and the era that he now must train Ahsoka in. He explains to her that the Jedi unfortunately are no longer keepers of the peace, but now must be soldiers. And in the end, he is pleased with how good of a soldier Ahsoka has become. However, Ahsoka herself does not want to impart upon the
my store and my design business?
We're exploding, but my old internet is not letting me run the show.
So we
to fight. Instead, she wants to become what she believes a true Jedi should be. Again, a keeper of the peace and the light side of the Force, not a foot soldier for a republic or for the Jedi. This is the moment that truly upsets Anakin Skywalker in the episode, as he explains to Ahsoka Tano that she does not understand, that to be a Jedi is something that is ever evolving. But the most important thing is he tells Ahsoka that she is a great warrior, but there is also so much more to her, and there is so much more to her training because there is so much more to Anakin. Anakin is explaining here that he's not just a soldier, he's not just the chosen one, but he can be whatever the galaxy needs him to be as a Jedi. But what's so shocking is even Anakin Skywalker had the opportunity to be trained in an era where there was not constant war. Ahsoka, especially by the time of the Ahsoka series, believes herself to be a weapon, a powerful force wielder, one who is extremely skilled at destruction and violence, because unfortunately, that is how she was trained. The final lesson of the episode, though, is quite brilliant. That is when Ahsoka Tano has the opportunity to strike down Darth Vader, or her master in Anakin. She holds the saber up to his throat, and can strike him down in anger in that moment if she wants to. At that moment, she believes that Vader has been completely corrupted by the dark side, corrupted by the same violence that threatens to corrupt Ahsoka Tano, and the same training that she experienced during the Clone Wars. Her eyes even turn the Sith yellow. However, we know that the lesson is hit home because Ahsoka Tano, despite all of her training and knowledge how to destroy, despite destroying the droids during all of the Clone Wars and becoming a trained soldier, in this moment, she chooses to turn away from that reality to prove that although she was trained in the fire, she is still so much more. She shows restraint, compassion, and forgiveness. Seeing all of the Clone Wars take place in live action really goes a long way to illustrate how a Jedi Padawan of this era would feel. How Barriss Offee, someone who eventually would turn on the Jedi and betray them because she was against the Clone Wars, might have felt. We often talk about the Clone Wars and how it impacted the wider Jedi Order, but not specifically the Jedi Padawans during this time. While the era of the Great Jedi Purge was terrifying, these Padawans, who were promised to be keepers of the peace, and
does not everybody dress the same? Does not everybody think the same? Oh, it's a clone war.
Help the innocents of the galaxy find enlightenment and easier times, were now thrown into a war that none of them asked for. They were Padawans, they had no say in the matter. but now they were forced to be soldiers, commanders, and one day, even generals. We learned that not only did Ahsoka Tano walk away from Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars and feel extreme regret, but that she also believed that part of Barriss was correct, that part of her training as a Jedi during the Clone Wars was flawed, and that perhaps this is why Ahsoka was not a Jedi, a sentiment which was of course completely correct as Anakin eventually hits home. While it is true that Ahsoka was born in the fire of the Clone Wars, that does not define her. It is important for a Jedi to be a great warrior, but it is also important for them to have compassion and an understanding. But these are things that Ahsoka was already born with and had a great understanding of. In the previous episode, for Baylan to put this into question, to call her only an instrument of death and destruction just like her master, shook her very foundation. Because there was always a part of Ahsoka Tano that was holding her back. Belief that the Clone Wars made her not a true Jedi, and perhaps she was just an agent of death and destruction, and not a Jedi at all. But this was the final lesson of a completely enlightened Anakin Skywalker, that there was so much more to being a Jedi than being a warrior, even if one was trained during the Clone Wars. He explains to her that they're going to make mistakes, and that people around her are going to die because of her. But she cannot lose track of the greater goal, that being a Jedi is necessary, and that she belongs to an important legacy of Jedi. It's also likely that Ahsoka questions the very legacy that she belongs to. While Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn were faithful Jedi, one of the first Jedi of this order, in Dooku, also embraced the dark side, just as Ahsoka's very master did in Anakin. She even blames him for this. However, the true brilliance of the episode is that it is Darth Vader that gives Ahsoka Tano the final and most important lesson, not Anakin. She already loves and trusts Anakin, but it is Darth Vader. It is what Anakin Skywalker has become that Ahsoka must overcome in herself. The idea that her master was far more dangerous than anybody ever realized. But in the end, she must accept that there is far more to him than Darth Vader. And because of that, she must accept that there is far more to her than simply being a weapon. The episode, though, really hammered home the terrors of war, and what it would be like for a 14-year-old child to be thrust into it. In animation, there is always that disconnect, but when you see a literal 14-year-old in the heat of battle, in the heat of the Clone Wars, and you truly understand how much of a traumatic experience this would be, it puts everything in a new perspective. Ahsoka was trained in the era where the Jedi were destroyed, where they had fallen so far, and that causes Ahsoka to believe that she is a product of their very mistakes, when in reality she can learn from them. She can choose to be the very best of who they were, because make no mistake, they were still Jedi. Anakin Skywalker was one of the greatest Jedi. She must learn to take the parts of them that truly matter, that although she is a weapon for death and destruction in truth, she can be the weapon for death and destruction for forces of light and good. She is a soldier. She will always be a soldier. But now she has learned that along with becoming a soldier, she also truly did become a Jedi. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? Was this scene far more terrifying for you in reality of something that we have wanted to see for a very long time? Live-action Clone Wars. These were done in the form of flashbacks or memories from Ahsoka's mind interacting with the world between worlds. But before Anakin began this lesson,
now I understand what I gotta do. I don't know exactly how to do it, but I know what I gotta do.
These were done in the form of flashbacks or memories from Ahsoka's mind interacting with the world between worlds. But before Anakin began this lesson, he needed to push Ahsoka into making a decision about her life, and this was done in the form of a surprise lightsaber duel. Anakin ignites his saber and begins to duel her. This was at first just to get her into the first memory, and then he duels her later as Vader out of a last memory. But we have noticed something very important about these sequences, which lies in Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber form and his attitude. Specifically, how it speaks to him finally completing his journey to becoming the master that he was always meant to be. Anakin's lightsaber style is absolutely flawless, as he displays his total mastery over the fifth form of lightsaber combat. And yet, Anakin seems to be fighting a bit differently than we have seen in Revenge of the Sith, leading us to believe that Anakin Skywalker has taken the fifth form of lightsaber combat to the highest degree. There is so much for us to break down and discuss, and analyze the completion of Jedi Master Anakin Skywalker's journey, as represented through his lightsaber style. Obviously, there is a lot more to the episode than how Anakin Skywalker conducts himself over the course.
How you fight describes who you are. inside.
Of a duel. But since we pride ourselves in analyzing duels on this channel, we will be taking a deep dive into Anakin Skywalker's new and improved form. So now, my friends, let us begin. The first thing that can be noticed is how expertly Anakin handles his blade. It has been quite some time since we've seen Anakin Skywalker in regular body use his lightsaber, with us most of the time being more familiar with Vader. The very last time he was able to freely move as he wanted to, he was on Mustafar, and had tunnel visioned into a rage at the behest of Obi-Wan Kenobi, a rage which ultimately resulted in his defeat and dismemberment. Since then, though, we've mostly understood.
Thank you, Lex. That's me and you arguing on the phone. And then you defeated me with the truth by telling me, go learn. I'm teaching what I'm teaching. You go teach what you want to teach.
The lightsaber form developed by Darth Vader.
Thank you for telling me the truth to get the fuck up, and you're not a man. You only are what you do. And you were right.
A hybridized form that took the greatest elements of his two greatest teachers over the course of the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Count Dooku, becoming a master of forms 5, 3, and 2, developing a near-perfect form even with his new physical limitations. As a young able-bodied man, though, Anakin typically was aggressive on his opponents with an energetic flow of attacks, utilizing the iconic blows of Gem-So, mixed with the footwork of Ataru, which he had learned from Obi-Wan. This made Anakin light on his feet and entirely devastating to his opponents, with him being able to close the distance quickly and stay on top of his adversary to completely break down their defenses.
Pressure.
But as Vader, he was no longer able to move this quickly, erratically, or without the prior precision of Anakin Skywalker. Vader needed to pick his spots far more meticulously in the heat of a duel. Not only was Anakin's physical body limited, but he had to take great care in protecting his life support system that lie in the middle of his chest. This is why he implemented.
No. The reason why Vader had to move slower is because Obi-Wan cut his legs and arms off, and they gave him a robot, arms and legs. And then his Sith Lord master betrayed him and made people give certain implements in the suit that would forbid him to use his power at maximum, because the Sith Lord leader knew he was the chosen one, and if he got any more stronger, he would fucking take him out. So he gave him a suit that limited his power. But Anakin was so smart, he said, I'm just going to use the Force power now. You took my body away, but now I'm going to use the Force to manipulate my suit. So you can't stop me. You can only hope to contain Michael Jordan.
A two-handed Makashi style to cover his chest plate and make his strikes as accurate as possible.
He changed his style.
He even implemented a few moves from Sarisu for better defense, and Shi-Cho for area control, with careful thought and planning put into every single lightsaber technique that Vader used. We believe.
See, when you fucks forced me to the dark side and Vegeta up, you unleashed my Vader, and I kept barraging you motherfuckers. And now that I see what's going on truly within myself, and I truly am a Sith, I understand now
that he truly maximized his potential in his current state.
Yes.
He had created a crazy hybridized style comprised of small pieces from each of the 7 forms. Vader became an absolute monster. He was unstoppable in most encounters, with his only limitation being movement some of the time. But as we stated, Vader made massive strides in even this weakness, maximizing area control of his enemies. If he found an extremely strong Jedi, he would use his blade to meticulously cut around them, killing certain Jedi with death by 1,000 cuts. Other Jedi, he could sense their fear, and could use his superior cybernetic body to cleave through them effortlessly. Vader chose to either cut around or through an opponent to break down.
That was so cool!
This is how I defeat my enemies.
Slowly and meticulously, or use the full strength of his power to bear. So why exactly is this important for Anakin?
Why?
Well, the answer is, what if you took the mind of Vader, this perfect lightsaber form, but simply removed every single weakness? That, my friends, is the Anakin Skywalker that we have now. In his younger body, he is able to be far more free with his movement, going back primarily to Form 5 Gem So that he used in Revenge of the Sith. But now, though, it is perfected. There is not a single flaw in his form whatsoever. Each motion of the blade is smooth and carries into the next strike. Every step is an action, and each action a step. There is no loss of momentum or hesitation unless it serves a purpose.
Yes.
Anakin has become so adept at his form that he is able to physically represent how Gem So works. Let's explain. There are a couple of points in the duel where Anakin and Ahsoka lock sabers, and Anakin seems to just slightly push her off of his blade, not moving very much whatsoever. And yet, Ahsoka is forced into a stumble backwards. What you're looking at is the most fundamental application of Gem So, the ability to push your own energy onto your opponent through your blade, using both his physical strength and, more importantly, the strength of the Force. Anakin channels the kinetic energy and velocity straight into his blade and unleashes it upon his opponent when he sees fit. This is...
See, that's what I gotta learn how to do. Many of you may not understand it because your brain doesn't work like mine, and that's not a bad thing. The sword form of what he's talking about is what I mean of the sword of truth, the thing that the Lord gives his people, speaking the truth, using the sword. And yeah, in my younger days, I barraged the shit out of you people, and that's why people gang together and to get me away, because no one can stand before me with this truth. I will fuck you up verbally. Now, I'm understanding the game, and I'm understanding now that I seen this. I have to control the way I do it so I can maximize when I wield the sword. And I understand, and I don't care if you do. This is a video for me and others that understand
why Form 5 is so powerful, and how it's able to completely batter down anyone's defenses. By being able to just push Ahsoka back from his lightsaber without barely having to move at all, shows his total control over this fundamental attribute, an important aspect of Gem So. The point is, Anakin has truly and completely become the master of Form 5. And yet, we've learned more about Anakin's style. Gem So is not the only thing that he is using. At first, he appears to fight as he did as a young man, but if you look closer, you can see that he is actually retaining all the lessons in combat he learned as Vader. His movements are quick, more sharp, and precise. Notice how there is very little wasted movement, and anytime he begins to get erratic with quick spins and turns of his saber to the body, it's only meant to throw off where his next strike will come from. But yes, his moves are direct and measured. He's definitely on the offensive, but Anakin is taking the duel in strides, controlling the momentum, and keeping the fight going at the exact pace that he wants it to, just by the way he's moving. You can tell Anakin is in complete control of combat and the duel, even his opponent. He knows exactly how much pressure to apply, when to pause, and when to aggress. The biggest part...
Because he knows her next move. Because he knows his move.
Part of this is how effortlessly he's doing it as well. Even when he assumes the identity of Darth Vader and gets far more powerful and oppressive in his strikes, he maintains this state of restraint. What all of this is to say is that Anakin has brought himself to a place of harmony between Anakin and Darth Vader, and even the way that the two of them fought. The biggest shackles Anakin ever placed on himself was that of self-loathing and insecurity, with him struggling as Anakin and wallowed in it as Vader. It's easy to think he would spend much of his afterlife in mourning on how he used to be and the mistakes he made, but it does not seem that way. When Ahsoka brings up that he was much more powerful and dangerous than anyone thought he was, of course, referencing his turn and fall to the dark side, Anakin doesn't seem hurt by this at all. In fact, his answer was, "Is that what all this is about?" After saying this, he takes on the identity of Vader so Ahsoka can get her feelings out. He does this without hesitation, without effort or fear. He's not afraid of the dark side or ashamed of this aspect of himself.
Another ad?
Hesitation without effort or fear. He's not afraid of the dark side or ashamed of this aspect of himself anymore. He has embraced that he was once Vader, but has reconciled that part of himself with his real self now. Vader was born of pain, fear, and a desire to keep those he cared about safe. First born out of pain from leaving his mother and watching her die, anger that he wasn't able to stop her death, and fear of what this meant for Padme and the rest of those whom he loved. This is what caused Vader to grow within Anakin. Hatred and suffering of all of it collapsing in his face when Vader attempted to destroy Anakin and lock him away forever. But in death, Anakin Skywalker reconciled with Vader, and the two of them have come to an agreement now that it is all over. Because of this, Anakin is now a master of both sides of the Force, because he is the master of both sides of himself. Gone is the confused and conflicted boy and the self-hating monster. No more is his heart struggling because of all of his fear and pain, his regret. Anakin is in harmony, but not the self-denying harmony that the Jedi once taught. A true state of peace that brings him in balance with the Force itself. Because of this, he can slip into the role of Vader and slip right back out just as easily. He is reconciled with Vader, so that he made sure that Ahsoka would as well. Anakin, now truly Master Skywalker, wasn't something he had to get from the Council of Masters, but from his own journey of the Force. That is why Anakin Skywalker is now Master. This video may have been at first about his lightsaber form, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. The way Anakin fights, moves, and speaks is representative of who he ultimately has become. We may not know for certain whether Anakin is a celestial, or some kind of watcher of the world between worlds, or even some kind of god. But what we can see is that Anakin has come to mend himself. The works of Luke brought him to the light, and in death, Anakin finally did what he could never do before: make peace with himself. This likely unlocks something huge within the Force, considering he is the son of the Force itself, fulfilling his role as the Chosen One and the Keeper of Balance, giving him power and authority that he could not find in life. But anyway, my friends, what do you think about today's video? Did you notice anything different in Anakin's lightsaber form?
Blood pressure. 201, 14A.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Gotta go my own way.
Let's go. Leader of the squad of a hard work and discipline. Reincarnation, a master window, people witnessing. I'm past the loss of my window, no visiting. Get your broke ass a job, but you ain't getting it. Soldiers ride out to rules, there is a difference in running the team. I'm giving to the discipline. Wolves are fit to win. Knowledge I'm giving them. Love is coming back. Logic is listening. Talk about fitting in projects that I was living in. David Risk Goliath, but I wasn't giving in. I work twice as hard. People are witnessing. Haters getting hot. Fevers are blistering. GMB sizzling. Grown men, businessmen won't stop till every fucking brick is in. And now that I can stand as a man, this ain't a rap song, nigga. It's the plan. It's the GMB. Come and follow me. We put the work in every dime you see. Cause everybody's on their own. Everybody's living fake. Everybody's gotta do what they do just to get that cake. Come on. It's the GMB. Now everybody follow me. Cause everybody's on their own. Everybody's living fake. Everybody's gotta do what they do just to get that cake. Come on. Vision had the studio impression. Got the raps mixing. Got the bar chains. Bringing shit floor to back. Like the spit more fast. But we live in the shadows. Y'all do this and that. My niggas, we switch channels. Wolves at war. You better get your camo. GMB soldier. How much can y'all handle? We scramble to scramble. Y'all ran with the ramble. My life is like opening doors. I handle the handle. Life change. All you need is 30 days. Shots out the milk and all. They call an early grave. I'm tired of being broke. At an early age. Got up on that GMB. And then I skipped the phase. Cause life is a maze. Life is a stage. Watching out this matrix. Dog. I'm breaking out this cage. My dudes. They don't root for me. I think it's don't shake hands. They salute to me. It's GMB.
Giving me a $300 check isn't gonna stop me. All love, all praise to the Most High.